Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma, and I really appreciate you being with me. Hope you had an absolutely fantastic weekend. Weather here in southern Oklahoma was just gorgeous, as it has been for several weeks now, fall. And I got to go to an automotive swap meet at Chickasha, Oklahoma. Had a great time walking around and soaking up some sunshine and what have you. Managed to score a few parts for a couple of my cars, and that's always really important. Managed to score a few parts that I'll be able to sell and make a few bucks to pay for the parts that I'm keeping. That's my hobby. That's what I love to do. I'm always looking for some classic cars that I can buy, that I can flip. uh, Most especially, of course, I can't always afford cars, but nonetheless, always looking for parts that I can flip and to pay for my hobby. It's really been good to me down through the years, and I just absolutely love it. The old saying goes, uh, it's not the actual buying, it's the hunt that is the most fun. You look, and then all of a sudden you find a little gem, and it's a good price. And so that score there, looking and the hunting for the score is really an awful lot of fun. So anyway, hope you had a fantastic weekend. That was mine, and that's this part of the year here in the fall. Lots and lots of swap meets, and sometimes it's just one swap meet after another. I don't always get to go to them, obviously, but nonetheless, great time. Okay, now, before we get into the video this morning, I want you to remember coming up this Saturday, which will be October 26th, 2024, I will be having my formal YouTube debate with Dr. Richard Carrier. The subject of this debate is, insofar as the gospel writers accurately record the words of Jesus, his predictions of his coming in the end of the age failed or he lied. Now, if you're familiar with my YouTube television program entitled Now TV, you know that I've been discussing this very issue for a good long while now. And I call it the challenge of Christ. Jesus said, if I do not do the works my Father has given me, do not believe me. But if I do, then do not believe me for my words, believe me for my works, so that you may know that I am in the Father and the Father is in me. It can I cannot overemphasize enough, ladies and gentlemen, how critical it is that we be able to answer that challenge. And I've got to tell you, just recently, I made mention of the fact that I would be debating Dr. Carrier. And someone posted on my YouTube video and they said, Mr. Preston, just recently you said that covenant eschatology is the only view of eschatology that answers the challenge of Christ. Are you actually going to enter this debate and affirm that position? I was stunned. Why would anybody even ask that question? Since I don't believe in amillennialism, would I argue from that perspective? Since I don't believe in postmillennialism, would I enter the debate and argue from the postmillennial perspective? While I am certainly not a dispensationalist, would I enter into this debate and argue from the dispensational perspective? The historicist? It doesn't matter. Since I don't believe in any form of futurist eschatology, to even suggest, to hint, to give an innuendo that I would not enter that debate and argue from the perspective of covenant eschatology, quite honestly, it's quite an insult. I have to be honest with you. It's quite an insult to even ask me a question like that. And yet they did. Of course, this individual basically does nothing but come onto my forum to try to find fault. So that explains that. Okay, now then, let's get back to it. We've been focused on the meaning of Sukkot, the meaning of the Feast of Harvest, the Feast of the Ingathering, the feast that was called the Joy of the Nations. And I've been sharing with you how in passage after passage after passage, we have this motif of harvest and this motif of God dwelling with his people, which to the Jewish mind would have done nothing but conjure up the idea of Sukkot. And since this is Messiah engaging in the great harvest, this is the eschatological harvest. This is the time in which God would dwell with man through the work of Messiah. So, I've shared with you Revelation chapter 7, Revelation chapter 14. Pardon me. I thought my voice was better this morning. And I've shared those passages with you because they show to us the 144,000 out of the 12 tribes of Israel. And then in addition to the 144,000, and by the way, the 144,000 stand on Mount Zion. And that 144,000 in Revelation chapter 7, verse 9 says, after these things I looked, and behold, a great multitude. Now, this is in addition to the 144,000. The 144,000 are representative of the righteous remnant of all 12 tribes. So then we have, in addition to this consummation of Israel's salvation hope, the great multitude out of every nation, every tongue, every tribe, every kindred. Okay, anyway. And they stand before the Lamb, watch this, clothed in white robes. Palm branches were in their hands. Well, what's the significance of this text? Point number one, they, along with the 144,000, are martyrs for God. Now, how do I know that? Well, back in Revelation chapter 6, and remember, here we are in chapter 7, that doesn't prove the point explicitly all by itself in isolation. But in Revelation chapter 6, verse 9, John says, under the fifth seal, I saw the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried out, how long, O Lord, holy and true, do you not avenge us on those who dwell on the earth? And there was given unto each of them a white robe. And they were told to rest for a little while. Now look, folks, a little while doesn't mean 2,000 years and counting. And remember, these are the martyrs who are crying out for vindication. When did Jesus say that all of the blood of all the martyrs shed on the earth, from righteous Abel unto righteous Zacharias, son of Barachias, whom you slew between the temple and the altar, all of that blood would be avenged? So here we have a prophecy and a prediction that all the righteous martyrs, and here in Matthew 23, the focus is obviously on the martyrs in the bloodline of the righteous. And by the way, there were obviously martyrs of God before Israel was ever established. Do you reckon that might play into Revelation chapter 7, 9? Seems to me it does. You've got martyrs of Israel, and you got martyrs who are the great crowd of every nation, kindred, tongue, and tribe. Long before Israel was ever formed, is what Matthew chapter 23 informs us about. So anyway, they were told to rest, those martyrs, for a little while. until the fellow brethren and saints who should be slain as they were should be fulfilled. This is the measure of sin on the part of the martyrs, those who killed the martyrs, and this is the number of martyrs being filled up to fill up the measure of suffering, to fill up the measure of sin, and God's judgment, wrath would be poured out. And Jesus said that would happen in his generation. My question to you is, and I'm diverting from the subject of Sukot just a little bit, but really and honestly, not a great deal. But the great question is, when did Jesus say all of that righteous blood would be avenged? Well, Matthew 23, 36 and 37, Jesus said all of that righteous blood would be avenged in the first century generation. He didn't say this avenging would come on, quote, this kind of people, unquote, which is an abuse of the language. This generation is the people that he is finding guilty of filling up the measure of their sin by doing what? Killing his apostles and prophets. Luke 13, Luke 11, 49. Who does he accuse of doing that? Israel. Filling up the measure of their sin by killing his apostles and prophets. And once again, he said that avenging of that blood of all the righteous, how would that righteous blood not be included in Revelation chapter 6? Where's the exclusionary phraseology? So if the martyrs of Revelation 6 are the martyrs of Matthew 23, then that means the martyrs of Revelation chapter 6 were to be avenged in the judgment of Jerusalem in the first century. I wonder how that might affect our understanding of the dating of Revelation. The bottom line here is, unless you can prove that the martyrs of Revelation chapter 6 are a different group of martyrs from the martyrs of Matthew chapter 23, then the martyrs of Revelation 6 were going to be avenged in the first century in the judgment of Old Covenant Israel. Now, how does that play into the harvest? Well, once again, Revelation chapter 6, 9, those martyrs were given white robes and told to rest for a little while until they would be avenged. Greek word ekdekesis. In Revelation chapter 7, verse 9, the ones to whom white robes had been given are standing along with the great multitude, and they're holding palm branches in their hand. Oh, what does that mean? This is the time of the avenging of the blood at the feast of Sukot. The great harvest, the great ingathering. Folks, there's a perfect correspondence between Revelation 6, Matthew 23, Revelation 6, and Revelation chapter 7 and verse 9. Same group of people. Now, watch this. This is really quite incredible. In Revelation chapter 7, one of the elders standing before the throne asked John, who are these? Who are these arrayed in white robes? Where do they come from? White robes? Revelation 6. White robes? Revelation 7, 9 and following. Now, Revelation 7:14, John, when he is asked, who are these who are adorned in white robes? And John says, Lord, my Lord, you know. And he said to me, these are the ones who come out of the great tribulation, and they have washed, washed their robes, made them white in the blood of the Lamb. For this reason, they are before the throne of God, and they serve him day and night in his temple. Now, watch this. And he who sits on the throne shall spread his tabernacle over them. Sukot. Now, in the morning, I'm going to share with you how Sukot is tied directly to the new heaven and new earth, the new Jerusalem, at the day of the Lord. And remember, this Sukkot imagery here in Revelation chapter 7 is tied directly to the avenging of the martyrs, which Jesus said would be in his generation, and which Revelation chapter 6 said would be in a little while. Out of time for this morning. Hey, don't forget, save yourself over $20 by going to my website, donkpreston.com, clicking the banner up at the top. You order these two books, total delivered price, $39.95, delivered to your door, nothing extra, no other charges. Order the books. You'll be absolutely thrilled that you did. In the meantime, I'll see you on the flip side.